Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone by J.K. Rowling. Chapter 17. The Man with Two Faces. It was Quirrell. You! Gasped Harry. Quirrell smiled. His face wasn't twitching at all. Me, said calmly. I wondered whether I'd be meeting you here, Potter. But I thought, Snape! Severus? Quirrell laughed, and it wasn't his usual quivering treble either, but cold and sharp. Yes, Severus does seem the type, doesn't he? So useful to have him swooping around like an overgrown bat. Next to him, who would suspect stuttering Professor Quirrell? Harry couldn't take it in. This couldn't be true, it couldn't. But Snape tried to kill me. No. I tried to kill you. Your friend Miss Granger accidentally knocked me over as she rushed to set fire on Snape at that Quidditch match. She broke my eye contact with you. Another few seconds and I'd have got you off that roof. I have managed it before then. Snape hasn't been muttering a counter curse trying to save you. Snape was trying to save me? Oh, of course, said Quirrell coolly. Why do you think he wanted to referee your next match? He was trying to make sure I didn't do it again. Funny, really. He didn't have bothered. He couldn't do anything with Dumbledore watching. All the other teachers thought Snape was trying to Gryffindor winning. He did make himself unpopular. And what a waste of time, and after all that, I'm going to kill you tonight. Quirrell snapped his fingers. Ropes sprang out of thin air and wrapped themselves tightly around Harry. You're too nosy to leave, Potter. Scurrying around the school at Halloween like that, for all I knew you'd see me coming to look at what was guarding the stone. You let the troll in. Certainly. I have a special gift, trolls. You might have seen what I did to one in the chamber back there. Unfortunately, while everyone else was running around looking for it, Snape, who already suspected me, went straight to the third floor to head me off. And not only did my troll fail to beat you to death, that three-headed dog didn't even manage to bite Snape's leg off properly. Now, wait quietly, Potter. I need to examine this interesting mirror. It was only then that Harry realized that it was standing behind Quirrell. It was the mirror of Erased. This mirror is the key to finding the stone, Quirrell murmured, tapping his way around the frame. Trust Dumbledore to come up with something like this. But he's in London. I'll be far away by the time he gets back. All Harry could think of doing was keep Quirrell talking and stop him concentrating on the mirror. I saw you and Snape in the forest, he blurted out. Yes, said Quirrell idly, walking around the mirror to look at the back. He was on me by the time, trying to find out how far I'd got. He suspected me all along, tried to frighten me, as though he could, when I had Lord Voldemort on my side. Quirrell came back out from behind mirror and started hungrily into it, staring. I see the stone. I presented it to my master, but where it is? Harry struggled against the rose blinding him, but they didn't give. He had to keep Quirrell from giving his whole attention to the mirror. But Snape always seemed to hate me so much. Oh, he does, said Quirrell casually. Heavens, yes. He was at Hogwarts with your father, didn't you know? They loved each other, but he never wanted you dead. But I heard you a few days ago sobbing. I thought Snape was threatening you. For the first time, a spasm of fear flitted across Quirrell's face. Sometimes, he said, I find it hard to follow my master's instructions. He is a great wizard, and I am weak. You mean he was there in the classroom with you? Harry gasped. He is with me wherever I go, said Quirrell quietly. I met him when I traveled around the world. A foolish young man I was then, full of ridiculous ideas about good and evil. Lord Voldemort showed me how wrong I was. There is no good and evil. There is only power, and those too weak to see since then. Since then I have risked this faithfully, although I have let him down many times. He has had to be my very heart on me. Quirrell shivered suddenly. He does not forgive mistakes easily. When I failed to steal the stone from Gringotts, he was most displeased. He punished me, decided to would keep a closer watch on me. Quirrell's voice tailed away. Harry was remembering his trip to Diagon Alley. How could he have been so stupid? He'd seen Quirrell that every day, shaking hands with him in the leaky cauldron. Quirrell cursed under his breath. I don't understand. Is the stone inside the mirror? Should I break it? Harry's mind was racing. What I want more than anything else in the world at the moment, he thought, is to find the stone before Quirrell does. So if I look in the mirror, I should see myself finding it, which means I will see where it's hidden. But how can I look without Quirrell realizing what I'm up to? He tried to edge to the left, to get in front of the glass without Quirrell noticing, but the ropes around his ankles were too tight. He tripped and fell over. Quirrell ignored him. He was still talking to himself. What does this mirror do? How does this work? Help me, master. And to Harry's horror, a voice answered, and the voice seemed to come from Quirrell himself. Use the board, use the board. Quirrell rounded at Harry. Yes, Potter, come here. He clapped his hands one, and the rose binding Harry fell down. Harry got slowly to his feet. Come here, Quirrell repeated. Look in the mirror and tell me what you see. Harry walked towards him. I must lie, he thought desperately. I must look and lie about what I see, that's all. Quirrell moved close behind him. Harry breathed in the funny smell that seemed to come from Quirrell's turban. He closed his eyes, stepped in front of the mirror, and opened them again. He saw his reflection, pale and scared looking at first. But a moment later, the reflection smiled at him. It put its hand in its pocket and pulled out a blood-red stone. It winked and put the stone back in its pocket. And as it did so, Harry felt something heavy drop into his real pocket. Somehow, incredibly, he'd got the stone. Well, said Quirrell impatiently, what do you see? Harry screwed up his courage. I see myself shaking hands with Dumbledore, he invented. I voted the house cup for Gryffindor. Quirrell cursed again. Get out of the way, he said. As Harry moved aside, he felt the sorcerer's stone against his leg. Dare he make a break for it? But he hadn't walked 5 places before a high voice spoke. Through a Quirrell was moving his lips. He lies, he lies. Potter, come back here, Quirrell shouted. Tell me the truth. What did you just see? The high voice spoke again. Let me speak to him face to face. Master, you're not strong enough. I have strength enough for this. Harry felt as if devil's snare was rooting him to the spot. He couldn't move a muscle. Petrified, he watched as Quirrell reached up and began to unwrap his turban. What was going on? The turban fell away. Quirrell's head looked strangely small without it. Then he turned slowly on the spot. This is the picture. Harry would have screamed, but he couldn't make a sound. Where there should have been a back to Quirrell's head, there was a face, the most terrible face Harry had ever seen. It was chalk white with glaring red eyes and slits from nostrils like a snake. Harry Potter, it whispered. Harry tried to make a step backwards, but his legs wouldn't move. See what have become, this face said. More shadow and vapor. I have form only when I can share another's body. There have always been those willing to get me into their hearts and minds. Unicorn blood has strengthened me these past weeks. You saw faithful Quirrell drinking it for me in the forest. And once I have the elixir of life, I will be able to create a body of my own. Now, why don't you give me the stone in your pocket? So he knew. The feeling suddenly stirred back into Harry's legs. He stumbled backwards. Don't be a fool, snarled the face. Better save your own life and join me, or you will meet the same end as your parents. They'll die begging me for mercy. Liar! Harry shouted suddenly. Quirrell was walking backwards at him so that Voldemort could still see him. The evil face was now smiling. How touching it is. I always value your bravery. Yes, boy, your parents were brave. I killed your father first and he put up a courageous fight. But your mother didn't have died. She was trying to protect you. Now, give me the stone unless you want her to have died in vain. Never! Harry sprang towards the flame door, but Voldemort screamed, Sass him! And next second, Harry felt Quirrell's hand close on his wrist. And once a needle-sharp pain seared across Harry's scar, his head felt as though it was about to split in two. He yelled, struggling with all his might, and to his surprise, Quirrell let go of him. The pain in his head suddenly lessened. He looked around wildly to see where Quirrell had gone, and saw him hunched in pain, looking at his fingers. They were blistering before his eyes. Kill him! Shrieked Voldemort again, and Quirrell lunged, knocking Harry clean off his feet, landing on top of him, both hands around Harry's neck. Harry's scar was almost blinding him in pain, yet he could see Quirrell howling in agony.